Another episode of Going Live with the MC. Today we got another dope guest, as you already know. Today this guest goes by the name of Nicole Hines. She is a good friend of mine's out. She's a good friend of mine's out of the UK. She is known as a vocalist. She is a content creator as well as a travel vlogger. She's also an advocate for mental health. So those are just a range of the topics that we'll be diving into today. So we're just waiting for her to join in and we'll be good to go. As we do that, I'm going to share the live. You guys already know how it goes down. If you have any questions for the guest or myself, just please use the question mark logo at the bottom. I'll definitely go through them and we'll be able to answer those questions as the conversation goes on. You can drop your comments, show love, however you want to do, but please use the question mark logo to ask your questions. Alright, shout out to everybody tuning in. Welcome to Going Live with the MC. Let's get Alright, we're getting Nicole in here right now. Again, shout out to everybody that's tuning in. Like I said, if you have any questions, use the question mark logo at the bottom. Yes, she's joining right now. We're trying to get her in.
Hey, can you see and hear me?
I can hear you. Can't see you still, but it's all good.
No, I can see
No,
you.
yeah, I know. It happens. It happens a lot. I'm gonna see you after. Like when I post a video, it's gonna show both of us, but
Ah,
it is what it is.
okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I just gotta move on to the other platform because I'm tired of dealing with stuff like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's up? How you feeling today?
I'm good. I mean, it's 5 o'clock on this side.
Yeah,
Sun's
you halfway
still
through the
out,
day.
just relaxing, being with family. I've got some ginger tea with me now, so all's good.
All right.
How are
I got
you?
some pineapple ginger juice.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. So
But
you
how
all
are
about
you?
that health? I'm doing good actually. I'm feeling real good. It's the weekend, so I'm not working.
Oh,
I'm
that's good.
chilling. Yeah, I'm home right now with the family, just chilling.
No, that's good. It's nice to have a day off, just away from everything, just relax.
Yeah, facts. And a lot of people don't take that seriously. While I was at work yesterday, I was mentioning to one of my well, he's not really a coworker, but he's someone that I see while doing my job. Um, and part of the conversation we had was about I was working 10 days straight prior to today.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, so he was like, "Yeah, man, you just got to go out and get that money. You got to get that bag, though. Not all these opportunities come every day." And I was just like,
Mm.
"Yeah, I hear you, but I'm a little bit older now, so I got to chill out sometimes. It takes a toll on the body. It definitely does.
No, I feel that. And yeah, it's really important just to have like a break, especially working 10 days in a row. Like money is important, but not as important as your health because that you can't buy back.
Not exactly. Truthfully, well, actually, it was 12 days, but truthfully, I really, excuse me, like the job that I work, I do dog walking, so it's like it's not as strenuous as someone would think, So doing 10 days is not as bad. It's just, I guess, waking up and going out and, you know,
Yeah.
doing that for 10 days, like just kind of like, all right, yeah. So, I mean, either way, not to downplay the amount of work that goes into it,
Yeah.
you still have to take care of your body. If you're not eating right, if you're not sleeping right, then you're just a zombie pretty much.
Yeah. Definitely.
Right. So yeah, let's get straight into it. You can add on to the resume if you like, but I got you down as a vocalist, content creator, and a travel vlogger. These are things that I've observed as I've known you.
Okay. I mean, I'd say you're more or less spot on. Yeah, at
Okay, okay, have a good
least
one.
for now.
Sorry?
No, I'd say you're spot on.
Okay, cool, cool. So I didn't get to watch everything on your YouTube, but I did dive down and see that you have like a range of like different stuff. I think it's not funny, but it was funny to see. You had the testimony of someone to come back from the dead,
Hmm.
and I don't know. To me, it was just hilarious because it was like of all the things you can find on someone's like itinerary, or well, not that. What's the other word I would rather say? Discography.
Hmm.
That would be one of them. You know, so um, talk about your range of creation. Like, what, like, do you see like a limit in yourself when you want to, like, I guess, push out a message? Or are you like, I guess, focused on one thing with your content?
I mean, I would like to say that I'm in a place now where I don't want to limit myself to just one thing. So going back rather to the testimony of the person that came back to life, essentially, that was actually my mother. So
Mm,
this was during COVID at its climax, and she was giving birth to my now youngest baby brother, and the experience was just life altering. But of course, in the end of it, she came out fine. But in terms of content in general, I used to fight a lot with what exactly I want to put towards the world. Like, I want to do music, I want to sing, I want to write songs, I want to be able to play the keys. Then I also really love traveling and I want to be able to also incorporate that somehow, somewhere. So I think right now, I feel as though with where music's going at the moment, I feel it's very important to be independent and also be more of an individual than trying to reach the masses or anything. And it's like when I want people to hear my music or hear the words that I'm saying, I want it to be a reflection of me, which includes my love for traveling, my love
mm,
for music of different kinds and different languages. And I think one great place that I've kind of started with is via YouTube. Even though
mm.
over the years I've kind of been on and off with it, this year I'm really honing in on the editing, potential marketing later in the year, and also just being able to reach as many people as possible. And I feel like online is probably the best way to go about it.
Yeah, that's true. But my question for that is, do you not find it challenging to, how can I say, to direct your audience between your variations? Because as you said, you do music, you travel, and there's a range of other things that you like to display.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times when you, let's just say, gain an audience, they're aimed at one aspect of you, you know?
Yeah.
So how do you, I guess, how do you find it with navigating through those? Like, I guess keeping your audience entertained through these variations.
It's definitely challenging because again, it's like two almost, well, they are quite distinct sort of spaces. Doing content around traveling versus actually doing music and singing, kind of showing that element as much as the content. It's not the easiest thing when it comes
Mhm.
to sort of introducing myself to new people. It's not always the easiest because I feel most people want to summarize everything into one thing. And, that's absolutely fine. But for
Hmm.
me, I kind of fight almost to sort of push both, but also have a common factor. And I think also knowing my why in the first place of doing each things, it's kind of been keeping me rooted somewhat. As in, with music is always going to start as a form of therapy for me because that's where it sort of began at the lowest point of my life. And content creation, it's something that's newer, but I kind of really enjoy sort of being in the camera, speaking, which is quite contradictory considering I'm more of a homebody. And I kind of feel that I gain more confidence from content creation, which also impacts my musical ability. Because when I travel, go to places, I kind of get inspiration to write songs whilst there. And then, sort of, when I come back home, it's like, okay, how do I arrange the keys or the lyrics in the right places to form a song? But yeah, back to the question, it is a challenge, but I feel me being able to sort of acknowledge that they're two separate things also sort of increases my ability to be more versatile when it comes to certain musical elements in terms of promoting or just uploads and things like this.
Interesting. Um, I mean, I'm kind of dealing with that myself, like with the podcast here and doing the music, so and I was also doing the edibles, so just I guess trying to usher people, because I was initially doing music, so trying to usher people over to these platforms, you know, it, it's kind of like they didn't really care too much, it was like, I mean, some people, who actually really truly rocked with me was like, all right, cool, let me check into this, but for the most part, it was just like like you're really just almost forcing people at this point. It's like, hey, look, I do this as well too. Excuse me, sorry. But yeah, just like I'm not like one of the. I mean, because a lot of people in this generation complain about the whole. They just want to focus on one thing. They don't want to create content. They don't want to promote. They don't want to do X, Y, Z. But I kind of embrace it because I think it's interesting that people get to see different layers of you. I think it's interesting when people can really say, hey, oh, it's cool that this person could build a house. It's cool that this person knows how to start a fire from sticks, like it's cool that this person knows how to do X, Y, and Z, so um yeah, I really enjoy this process and I hope that it's something that people come to embrace a little bit more. So thank you for your contribution in that lane of just really trying to exist and not like force it out there, but like just let it be, you know.
Yeah, sometimes it's just what you need to do. And I think as artists, it's really important that people get to see a different side of you. I mean, you don't have to be out in the open about everything, but again, like, oh, I didn't know this person could do this skill or could do that as well. But
Right.
I feel on the content side of things, when it comes to things like video editing and formatting, I think for any independent artist is definitely something was a skill that I would say to at least learn to use or to know the basics of.
No, for sure. So we got a question here. How do you feel your cultural ethnic background fits into your creative career? That's a great question.
I mean, I would say in different ways.
Shout out to your
So,
supporters, by the way. Sorry.
so for just for knowledge, I'm born and raised here in the UK, but my parents come from the Democratic Republic of Congo and Jamaica. So
Mhm.
growing up, it's a bit of a sort of mix. I didn't really have much of my father's side present until about a few years ago. But otherwise, I was brought up predominantly by an African queen, I must say, in an African household. And during like the days of youth, I will be listening to all kinds of songs thanks to my mother, whether it was R&B, whether it was suku, which is a genre in the DRC. Congo, Congo's genres of music have actually, throughout history, inspired a lot of genres that we now know and see of today, including things surrounding jazz, R&B, pop, a lot of different genres, which I'm really proud to sort of share in that history. I think when it comes to the songs I sing, but mainly the songs that I write, I
Mm.
always write with a sort of double meaning. And that's partly because I'm quite an indecisive person. I can't make a song into one about one specific thing without making the listener feel that, you know, she may be writing about that, but I feel like I can relate because I'm dealing with X, Y, and Z, which could be totally different things. But when it comes to my own personal sound, I would say it's kind of mixed because on both
Mm.
sides, there's very loud cultures, beautiful cultures, and a lot of people actually, when they first meet me, they don't expect me to come from either of these places
Right.
just because of how I am. But I feel once people sort of pick my brain a little bit, you can kind of see why I'm sort of like quieter than the typical person from these two cultures.
Mm.
I think being culturally aware of your history and also being able to not necessarily relate to, but to have a love and acknowledgement for the sounds that come from where you're originally from. Because
Mm.
at the end of it, I can always just say, I'm British. I was born and raised here. People argue with me sometimes saying, like, oh, you don't know enough about your culture on this side or that side to be saying you're Congolese and Jamaican. But
I
I
hate
mean, it's
that.
where it really annoys me. Like, I don't speak any of the languages. I mean, I can understand parts of it, but I don't speak it. And people always put me down for that. But at the end of it, it's like, it doesn't mean anything. I'm not considered less than, you're not considered more than if you do identify more with the cultures. I
Hmm.
would say it was sort of difficult growing up because I faced things like bullying, discrimination, which some people find ironic because, in a place like London is not really something that you would expect if it's so diverse, but it happens. But sort of using that to now show pride in where I'm from. Like when it comes to music
Hmm.
and other creative endeavors, I always create with this mindset of, you know, I want to be able to look back on this and say that I did everything because my
Right.
families on both sides did everything for me and my siblings to kind of be where we're at today. Like the story of my family from the Congolese side making the journey all the way to the UK, it's really, I mean, inspiring is not even the word for it. But for me to be where I am, like, I don't take it for granted. And I feel when it comes to having creative endeavors whilst also doing other things, I always create from the perspective of, you know, you were brought this far.
Hmm.
Make sure that everything you do, I mean, just don't have regret that, oh, you didn't go hard enough, you didn't do as much as you were going to say you were going to do, you didn't create how you wanted to create. Like, no, I just want to do everything, leave it all on the table.
Mm. I feel that heavily. And to go back to your last point about being bullied for not knowing your culture, or being from where you're actually from. It's crazy. My last guest, Blode Prince,
Mm-hmm.
he's actually a Haitian artist who lives in the UK as well. We talked a lot about knowing your culture and ethnicity and understanding the knowledge behind it and drawing the power from it. You know, it was a very powerful conversation. I think you would enjoy it. Yeah, but I enjoy conversations like that because, you know, it's important for us to know where we come from. You know, like a lot of us have like this mindset of like where we're born, like that's where our loyalty lies at, regardless of our bloodline. You know, but ultimately, I feel like, you know, the more you know about where you're from, you know, the better off your life will be because, you know, now you want to look into your culture. Now you want to go find your tribe. Now you want to try out their ways of life, you know, things of this, you know, like, but the longer you deny it, it's just, it's making it worse for everybody, the generations after us, you know, because definitely don't have kids, you know what I'm saying? Because if you're not going to explain your culture to your kids, then it's like, what are we doing here? Yeah, so it's detrimental for sure.
No,
Um,
it really is. Like, it wasn't until I started digging in a few years back towards my history. It requires a lot of unlearning and relearning. I feel like
mhm,
in the Western world, we're always taught this one sort of frame. I mean, my personal belief is that when it comes to education and history, every country has their own version of events. Like, you will have the truth and then each country's version of what happened around that truth. And it always makes themselves to be the greatest. And
mhm,
obviously, coming from a place like the UK, being taught that, oh, all black people were slaves, like the history began during the transatlantic slave trade, which, you know, is not true. But I feel
mhm,
self education, especially when you know where your roots lie, is just so important. Because from there, like you said, and probably how we spoke about in the last session, you kind of draw a particular amount of power that is so saturated that you can only use parts of it at a time because of how powerful it is.
mhm, for real. So we have another question. How have you found breaking into the music industry and the songwriting industry?
Oh,
That's a great question as well. I see you got the questions loaded. I see you.
I mean, I wouldn't want to say that I've broken into it yet, but I feel even in the sort of beginning stage of it, I mean, from my experience, I've found a lot of gatekeepers,
Well, you
which,
got the mobile awards out. That's part of an experience of breaking in.
yeah, definitely. I mean, it was more as an audience member, but yeah, we can consider this. I mean, this
Still an
was,
experience. You get to see certain things that, you know, most people don't get to see on
mm,
TV.
yeah, I mean, just being in the audience, it was really powerful and beautiful to see so many well-known Black UK celebrities all in one place,
Hmm.
especially for something like the Mobo celebrating Black excellence through the artistry. I really came out there just feeling more inspired than ever.
Hmm.
Like until then, which was only a few days ago, mind you, I had only begun speaking with a few people about possible collaborations. But after that, it's just there's just been a fire in me ever since just to continue creating. And I want to sort of keep going to these kind of events. I mean, I have a few lined up. Next week, I'm going to be doing some open mic performing, which it's been a minute, but I'm quite excited for. But
So you got just this one show coming up?
yeah, I mean, it's an open mic. I've got two. One which
Okay.
is by A class something. I'm terrible with names. That's my one weakness. But that's going to be happening in the Box Park in Shoreditch
Nice.
next week, Wednesday.
Oh, so wait, they still throwing events there? I thought they closed down.
No, I mean, not that I know of. But no,
Oh, okay.
they'll be
Interesting.
doing
Good to
it.
know.
Yeah, I mean, they'll be starting from 6 o'clock.
Okay, all right, y'all better get y'all tickets and be there. Box Park Shortage. I know where
Oh,
that's at. That's one of my favorite places.
oh, is it?
Yeah, I mean, just for like a chill spot, nothing crazy. The food isn't as good as it used to be.
Oh no.
I think I think they took out some of the best spots in there. But it's still cool. I met some great people there. They have some dope events there. I never got to perform there yet, but I performed at the other box parks.
Yeah, I think I saw you in one of them, the one in Croydon,
Yeah,
right?
that was Croydon. Yeah.
No, which was
Um,
absolutely ace. So,
um, I'm not gonna lie. I still I'm still laughing at that performance.
I mean, with a few hiccups
I
in the beginning,
I
but
I don't know if it was me or them. Like I was really trying to figure it out. Like I haven't ever been like that genuinely confused before,
mm,
but I was really trying to figure it out if it was me or them. But I know for sure like I performed the song 100 times before then,
oh
so it
yeah,
was like, yeah, this is awkward. Like it just felt weird, but um, I'm glad the people still received it. Everyone had a good time with it. So I was happy about that.
no, absolutely. I mean, for me, it was still awesome. Like, I think it might have been something to do with them, but I think it was more to the end.
Um, yeah, so my question for the music industry part,
Mm.
um, what's your approach with music then? You like if you're looking to, I guess I'm gonna put quotes around it, break into the industry. If you're looking to break into the industry, you have to make an impact in some form of way. So, what's your angle? I mean, right now we're in a whole different league, so
Yeah.
it's no longer like you can still do a YouTube post or whatever, and maybe,
Mm.
it depends on what's going on, but we're out of those days now. We got to be different, as they say.
Oh, yes. I mean, angle wise, I'm someone that would be considered more of an introvert. I'm someone that can be underestimated. So
Mhm.
I would want to come from the side of, you know, you thought that I was down here, but really I'm sort of up here. And I would want to do it in a way that's authentic and staying true to myself. I sort of deal with the daily habits of depression. Depression is something that I'm very honest and open about. It's not necessarily something spoken a lot in our communities, but when I was 13, I was hospitalized in a mental institute for young people down in Southampton, which is also the same place where I first was before moving to London at the age of 4 or 5. And I feel things around mental health and depression specifically, it's so important for me when it comes to songwriting, especially that whilst I can make sad songs and just pure depressing songs, that I always want to write in a way that presents a light at the end of the tunnel. And so if I was to sort of break out into the industry, it would definitely want come from this angle that it's
Mm.
absolutely okay to talk about mental health in your songs in a way that encourages people. Like, of course, you need sad songs as much as you need happy songs, but you also need to know at the end of every sad song, there is always a thing called hope. There's always something that's worth waiting for you on the other side of that sadness.
I this is the funny part. I used to be cool with someone who would tease me for like only listening to like conscious music. Like he would always laugh because every song that I listen to has like some kind of a message. Like, they're talking about like I'm not like heavy on politics. Like I lean into it to learn what's going on, but I'm not like consumed by it,
Yeah.
if that makes sense. But yeah, like they're always talking on something, some kind of issue, like whether it's a personal issue in their life or whether it's a global issue going on with the world, and I would say like these artists are particularly successful. Like, like a lot of like let's take NF for example. Capital N, capital F. He's a dope artist, in my opinion. He sounds like Eminem. I think that's what really drew me into him. Not that I was like, I guess, like super impressed by that comparison, but point is, when you listen to his music, it's mostly emotional. Like he's always like in his feels about something. Not like Drake, but it's more like actual feelings that we don't address, every single day. But apparently, he's one of the top selling independent artists. You know, and it's like when you go down his discography, his
Wow.
whole gimmick is being dark and vulnerable.
Mm.
Like, so I think it's interesting that, there's even a debate. And I even look at it now with the music that I'm putting out, like a lot of times I'm in venues where I have to go against these artists who are just pushing out the bullshit,
Mm.
so I I see the reaction, it's like whenever I perform, yeah, people do get in tune, they do love it or whatever. But like when these dudes come up or whatever, it's like everyone's jumping around, everyone got a drink in their hand, like it's the best day of their life, and it's just like how, like I'm not understanding, like, why are people less receptive to these vulnerable messages, like us being ourselves, us sharing our truth,
Mm.
so it's like it's just very, very interesting, and I wish it was widely accepted. I think that's what it is. A lot of people won't admit that they listen to this type of music, and that's
Yeah,
why these artists are so successful because no one talks about it.
exactly.
You know what I'm
I
saying?
feel like with society, it's like we allow so much to happen that we kind of forget sort of the key message of songs. So it's
Mm,
like it's really easy to listen to a hype song, just get lit, have some drinks and everything, but to actually hear the words of someone that is, in a way pouring their heart out on a topic or even just their feelings, it's not as receptive.
no, I feel that. So, um, what is like your, I guess, what's your experience on gaining an audience? Like right now, not like you have a few people in here commenting, they're asking questions, which is dope. They're engaging. I like that. Um, how do you gather your audience and how do you keep them engaged as you go along your journey? Because um, I think a lot of times, you know, us as creatives, we don't pay attention to the people who look into our stuff. And even if we do, we don't know how to keep them entertained. Like we lose a fire, because we're trying to do so much to keep these people entertained and we want to attract more new people. So what's your experience with this?
I mean, I'll be honest and say it's something that I still do struggle with now and again. I feel when it comes to my sort of open mic opportunities, I kind of I'm learning now that if I want to sort of promote it in a way to get people to come or to have someone to watch a video or something, I always feel it's worked in most cases to send a private message. Like, I mean, it will
Mhm.
take time. It does take time, but I, whilst I will be putting everything everywhere else, I feel like just sending personal messages is probably the way for me for now. That's something I've learned that works. But I think another thing that I would say I'm working on is definitely consistency. Kind of like
Mhm.
being able to show up more, especially for those that are supporting me and that are always behind my back, only
Mhm.
shouting praise and things like this. And I have been slacking here and there, but I feel now I'm kind of on the right track just to be practicing essentially what I'm saying, which is to keep up with the consistency and kind of bring it down to people in a way that makes it more personal for the person that you want to show up at your event or to tune in to an episode or an upload or anything like that. Because I
Right.
feel a lot of people are now sort of missing this thing of community And although I've not even begun the process of making a community, I feel as though, in a way, I kind of have a community just
Mhm.
by sort of acknowledging every like or every person that's supporting me directly. I think just reaching the people is sort of the best way to sort of make, build, and keep an audience.
So, do you see yourself being direct with your supporters as well? Like, do you see yourself like creating real life experiences with them outside of performing or outside of like just posting your content?
I would say, sorry, do you mind just repeat the question? My head's going a bit.
Do you like you said you want your supporters to be more direct, like you want it to be direct with giving your giving your stuff out. So I'm asking,
Mm-hmm.
do you? I kind of forgot the question myself, but did you?
I'm trying to
Yo,
remember
forget
it
it.
now myself.
No, but basically, no. I just basically do you want to create more opportunities to be direct with your supporters, like outside of like performing or posting content, like like merch giveaways, meet and greets, trivia giveaways. I don't know, things of this nature. Turkey giveaways. Stuff like that. Meet up.
No, I mean it's
You guys don't celebrate
definitely
Thanksgiving out there, so yeah.
it's definitely something I want
Mhm.
to do, especially where I am at the moment. It's something that, yes, I may be working full time, but I feel it's something I want to do because I think it is important to sort of give people that experience outside of just performing and, in a way, sort of get to know the person behind the songs and the music and things.
Mhm.
Like, I would love to do some matches. I actually have been planning for one or two. Probably not a project for this year yet, but it's definitely something that I would want to do to sort of give an experience to people.
Okay.
So I feel like at every stage, you shouldn't just neglect your fans and your audience that tune in and support you. And I think it's just important to sort of return that love and that investment back.
Right. Um, my word of advice for that though is do it accordingly.
Oh,
Like, a lot of times, and it's not like to single out supporters,
mm-hmm.
but sometimes we want to give back to everybody at once, but a lot of times people are kind of just there. Like there are some people, who just speak that talk. They talk the talk. They're not fully there.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like they're just friends hoping that they'll stick to the sidelines waiting and see, if you strike gold. That's when they'll jump in and be like, remember that time? Like, so um understand your audience, understand like who's really actually,
Mm-hmm.
willing to see you succeed, as much as they're gonna be there at your side when you're down.
Yeah.
Um and like also go all out, but again, do that accordingly as well
Yeah.
too. A lot of time, like for myself, with like whenever I do shows, sometimes if I notice someone comes to a show a lot, like if I see someone like at the last three shows, I'll give them a free ticket. Yo, hey, come through, even if I got to pay for it. Sometimes I have a plus one, or other times I'll just pay for their ticket and be like, yo, come through. Um, Other times I've invited people to a show and I've taken them out to eat afterwards, or I bought them food at the venue, or, something like that, or, hospitality. I've actually hung out with some of my supporters. I went to their house, met their family, done some things like that. When I've come to the UK, I have a lot of people there, that rock with me. I've spent the night at their house, when I didn't pay for a hotel or something. So all of these things are like memories. Obviously, again, I say accordingly,
Yeah.
because some of these things cost a lot, not even financially, but
Yeah.
um, again, just understand your audience, understand who's worth these experiences, because a lot of times we just want to do it because we think we're giving back,
Yeah,
and we end up, you know, drying ourselves out. So, yeah, no
I definitely agree with that, and thank you, of course.
doubt.
I think it's always good to give back. Of course, don't burn yourself out whilst doing it.
100% for sure. So part of your content creation is creating vlogs. You travel and um, you make recaps based on your experiences. Um, so what started you into this?
Um, I would say that's a good question. I think it actually is partly inspired by my journey towards identifying myself as someone that is British born, but also Jamaican and Congolese. It's like literally trying to merge and understand three different cultures. And I mean, it's so easy to get lost in something like that. And I had the questions of who am I? What is my value or purpose as this person, that person, that person? And
Mhm.
I think from there, it kind of just began my journey of wanting to discover more cultures and sort of discover different parts of the world. Like, I learnt to speak Spanish, or I'm self teaching because
Right.
I'd like to say I'm still learning because I feel you're always a student in something, especially something like language learning. And that was inspired by that simple fact of me sort of trying to contend with three different identities
Mhm.
until, I just learned to accept it and be more inspired and in tune with going to different places, different cities, countries, continents. And yeah, I mean that's how I'd say it definitely started.
So what's the difference between posting a video and actually talking to someone?
I mean,
I mean, I feel like you were better suited to answer this because I could have asked anybody. I don't know what answer I would have got, but I'll take yours.
so speaking to a camera versus a person,
Mm,
you can make as many mistakes as you want and you could just edit it out if you're doing it in front of
mm.
a camera. When you're with
Exactly.
a person, I mean, at least for me, I feel more nervous in terms of, am I saying the right thing? Are they going to interpret something I said wrongly? Do I need to explain myself to the person? But again, it's just something you learn to accept. I feel in some ways, depending on who I'm talking to, more confident speaking to like a phone or a camera, just because it sort of helps me build my confidence to then talk to other people, which sounds really odd to say, but
It
it's
doesn't
kind
respond.
of like it's definitely helps me with my confidence and
Mm,
me kind of seeing how much I've evolved from my very first YouTube video to my most recent one at the beginning of the year. That would definitely be partly because of YouTube. In spite of having that sort of 3, 4 year hiatus,
mm.
in that time, I probably learned so much. I think from there, I've then been able to be confident enough to actually travel to different places because I mostly do solo traveling,
Mm.
which again is something that people are terrified to do.
Right.
But I would say I would always recommend it. Like it forces you to talk to people. It forces you to engage with what's
100%.
around you and things. And that is something that you can't do on a camera. So,
100%. I agree with that.
so it's like for me, my first solo trip was, I mean, it was just to Paris in France. I took a coach. I mean, I went to and back with a coach, a lot of hours. But then from there, I was like, am I going to stay confined within myself or am I actually going to start talking to people? So I began doing the latter. And I
Mhm.
think since then, it's just been something that I want to keep doing. So I think
Mm,
being on camera is like a starter to building confidence. But
mhm,
again, I would say solo traveling will be the one where, you're literally forced to communicate, you're forced to challenge yourself in a new way. And,
mm.
plus points if it's in a country that doesn't speak your native language, because then that's another thing that you will be sort of contending with.
Oh, oh man, for real. I had that problem in Germany. Yeah.
Oh,
But
really?
they speak English in Germany. Like they speak English there. Like that's their second language. But they like to mess with you, like
Yeah.
so yeah, a lot of times they'll speak German and then, I
Mm.
guess you'll have to like catch them. Yeah, like because I had to trick a few people
Oh, yeah.
in order to find out that they actually speak English. But,
Ah.
like it's just wild, man.
You know,
It's like yeah,
I
you're
had a
totally right about
similar,
that.
mm, I had a similar thing when I went to Paris. Like, a lot of people there, surprisingly, they understand English, but they just don't want to talk in English. But I think for me, it was
Right.
difficult to actually speak to English with anyone. I mean, I can understand parts of it because, again, with my background in Congo, the official language is French.
Mm,
And whilst everyone else on my mum's side speak French, myself and my siblings do not. But we do
mm,
understand like certain words and phrases. It was kind of funny. I even found myself speaking Spanish a few times to some people.
mm.
But the English, I think it's just a lot of people didn't want to speak in English.
Yeah, that's what it is. Well, I think ultimately it's a tourist thing. If they think you're like one of those touristy people who just
Mm.
come for like just a picture, hey, look, I'm with a local,
Mm.
then yeah, they're just gonna speak the native language. But if they see that you just there observing a culture and you actually want to experience, like, then yeah, they'll hit that switch for you.
No,
I mean, at
definitely.
least that's from my experience, because every single time that I've caught one of these people in their lies or like their mask or whatever, I've had to like show a piece of myself, like, like this is really where I'm from, like this is not what I'm here for, kind of thing. So it's always an interesting experience either way.
Oh,
But I think if you're a good person and you go to these places again with a clear mind and a good heart, then everyone can detect that. Like they can see that and they'll be more than welcome to show you around. It's a hospitality thing.
no, absolutely. And I've definitely encountered this throughout my sort of travels because I think whenever you're traveling to anywhere, it's always good to have an open mind of, I'm going to a new place where customs are not necessarily going to be the same as from where I am. And I feel people that want to engage with the culture or the city where they're in and they're active in engaging will tend to have a different experience to someone that is just there for the main attractions. Again, like you said, just taking the pictures and things. And it is detectable, like everywhere you
Mm.
go. And I think with me solo traveling, like I went to different places, some questionable places, but yeah, even if I was lost and I had to communicate with someone that I was lost, whether it was in Spanish or, you know, using hand expressions, it
The most
works.
famous things. The
It
most famous
works.
things. Those are my favorite ones right there. I'm trying to go that way.
And it's like we don't understand what we're saying, but with the hands and the movements, it's easily understood. I feel like that's one of the universal languages
Yeah.
aside from music.
You know that building over there with the red and it got the orange on the top? Like, you're like, oh yeah, I know where you're going. Like, yo. So we have another question. Do you think solo traveling has been different for you as a black woman?
Oh, absolutely.
Mm, let's talk about
Absolutely.
it.
Like, I mean, I will start. with the sort of reels I'll be seeing of traveling to different countries.
Mm,
Now, at the time, say when I first got TikTok, it was the majority was led by white male and female creators showing
mm,
different countries and cities, places to see, do and go. I at first was quite naive, thinking like, oh yeah, that's gonna be my exact same experience as well. But then
right.
reality sort of seeps in, and it's like, as a black person, a black woman, my
Mm,
experience in a lot of places that I will go to will be different to that of my white counterparts. I will
mm,
give you an example. I was in Krakow, Poland for a few days last year.
mm.
It was a solo trip, but I did have a friend that was from there, that is studying there. And, everything
Still
with her
solo.
was great.
Still counts.
Um, Everything with her was great. The hotel staff, though, were not as accommodating
Mhm,
as I would have expected. I mean, I couldn't be too surprised, but again, it was a lot of disbelief from their end when I mentioned a number of problems with the room. It wasn't anything major, but still problems nevertheless. I was kind of made to feel on checkout that I was either making it up or that it was just a me problem and I had to deal with it.
mm.
And I was kind of left totally dismayed. Like, if I relied on that experience and that hotel setting alone, I would probably never want to go to Poland again.
That's crazy.
But even when I was in Paris, when I mentioned that a lot of people didn't want to speak English to me, at first I thought it was because I was black, like, I'm very honest with you. But
Mm.
then I quickly realized that it was more of an accent thing than it
Yeah,
was my race, at
for
least
real.
with the majority of people that I was meeting. Because the English and the French, historically, it's a very interesting relationship, I will say. I mean, it doesn't impact people like myself or like the average person from France, but I would say as a black woman, being very mindful of the places that I go to. There's some places that whilst I solo travel, I will actively avoid just to avoid any sort of dangerous scenarios that may be sort of race led.
It's all ignorance,
It is.
honestly. It's traditional ignorance. Let me say that. It's passed down. Well, let me not say traditional, it's inherited. It doesn't need to be continued. You know, I ultimately I think with this newer generation, like the newer incoming generation, they're becoming less and less worried about um racism, if that makes sense. Like,
Mm,
they're not listening to, great grandfather stories about the war anymore. They're like, look, Dad, I'm about to go out here and talk to Keisha, she a pretty black girl. Like kind of thing. Like they want to get into these different cultures now. They're
yeah.
actually, you know, I don't condone it, but gentrification in some areas I can understand it. I'm not the whole wiping out the existence part, but the whole becoming part of the culture and actually, doing something for the people.
Yeah.
Yeah, those parts of gentrification I can understand. Um, well, I
I
wouldn't.
think
It's not really gentrification, and it would be what integration. I still don't condone it. I think we got to keep our stuff to ourselves. Gatekeep rather. But I can understand those people who actually do want to learn about the culture and make a
yeah.
difference.
And
Um,
there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Like, obviously if the intention's good.
yeah, 100%, 100%. It's just it's a lot of conversations that people don't want to have,
Mm.
and I think that's why we're still like divided No matter where we go, I think that's why division is still very strong because nobody wants to have these conversations. It's like it's an insult if you challenge somebody's ideas. If you tell them, hey, you know what? Instead of this, let's do this, or instead of that, let's consider this. They don't want to hear that. Everyone has to be right. Everyone, their idea of power and control works. Like it's a I don't understand it. I be if I don't have to worry about any of this politics stuff, life is pretty good. I get to wake up, I get to go to sleep, I get to hang out with family. Like, it's things like that I enjoy doing. So I don't really want to focus on this stuff. So that's why I'm not like, that's why I'm like kind of confused as to why it goes on, why it matters. Like, why is this even a part of life? You know
Like
what I'm
for me,
saying?
it still confuses me because at the end of it, like everyone is human, everyone will have their own experiences depending on where they're brought up in, where they're from,
Right.
and things. I don't see, I mean, with history, I can understand the point of things like discrimination, but it's not something that I can understand, even though that I sort of experienced it in a place like London. It just doesn't really make sense to me. And I feel that is another reason why I choose to travel, especially solo travel. I think
Mm.
whilst there's some places that I would avoid just to avoid anything bad, I do want to put in people's minds that, you know, we are we are in 2025. In the 2020s, we're no longer back in time where it was illegal for us
Exactly.
as I would say black people in the US or in the UK or wherever that it was illegal for us to be free, essentially. I like to challenge especially black women to, empower themselves to be able to do something like travel by themselves without fear. Like, of course, so far I've only posted the good side, well, mostly the good sides of travel, but it doesn't mean that certain negative things don't also happen. But it's about what you do around those negatives. And I feel something like danger is always inevitable. And whilst, it's not good for you to be actively looking for danger.
Have you faced any danger?
Sorry?
Have you faced any danger while solo traveling?
Nothing, nothing major. I mean, the most was that I was followed whilst I was in Paris. I
Mm.
went out of a shop. It was in one of the arrondissements, and I was sort of walking casually. Then I realized after 2 minutes, the same person was following me from behind. And so I ended up doing was I was kind of speed walking at first, and then running, knowing that this person was still following me as I was speed walking. And this was like, I wouldn't say a closed off area, but nobody was there, basically. So in an unfamiliar place, I was kind of like speed walking slash running to the nearest sort of open space. And then eventually I found a place. There was a restaurant, there were like some other shops, people were walking around. And then I kind of got lost in the small crowd. I kind of hid myself from there and
Did you
then called a taxi.
panic?
And the taxi picks me up, and then that was fine. I mean, the reason why I don't really consider it that big was just because of how alert I was.
Mm.
I feel part of being black for me is being extremely alert to these kind of things, as well as, people throwing certain comments in the air. And
Right.
I feel like it's not something you would ever want to experience, but at least in that scenario, I just didn't have time to panic. I was just like, okay, this
Mm.
person's following me, just move, and then everything else will sort itself out.
I feel that. Well, kudos to you for making it out of that. It's always good to make the move ahead of time rather than to, especially in situations when you're outside of the country.
Yeah.
Like, man.
And it's like you don't speak the language, you don't know the streets.
Yeah, for real, man. You just got to be quick, and it could be anything. It could be anything. You just got to be quick. You got to know how to make your next move. That's all.
Yeah. I
Right.
think even being street aware can
Mm-hmm.
significantly improve your
100%.
chances if you ever. Hmm?
And you ain't even got to be fully involved in the streets. You ain't even got to be fully involved. Like no matter your level of involvement within the streets, your knowledge alone will save you. So,
Yeah,
yeah, um,
definitely.
yeah. I think some people, like with the right intent, should take a little bit of notes. Like check into the hood documentaries. Check out the little things, see what they do. But yeah. Um, so what's next for you? What's the next place that you plan to travel to?
So the next place is actually going to be in Dublin, Ireland. That will be
Okay.
just under 2 weeks from now. This will also be my solo trip, first solo trip of the year. Uh,
Nice.
I'm kind of wanting to go local throughout this first quarter of the year. So, kind of staying around Ireland or other parts of the UK. I kind of just want to get a feel for everything. I want to explore sort of the music venues in Dublin, see some places, hopefully meet some people, and kind of just practice using my confidence in different scenarios.
I don't know. Maybe it was because it was during lockdown, but I didn't find much in Dublin. It was actually very small to me. Uh,
Oh,
yeah, I don't know where I was at. But I definitely walked around the whole area in like 30 minutes. It was really small.
oh, really? I
Yeah.
mean, I hear
So
that even though it's a small place, there's a lot of competition. I mean, as in, there's a lot of buskers. Apparently, they're there.
yeah.
There's always someone there every day, different people, even those that are well established artists. I think it's like a cultural thing that a friend mentioned to me some time ago. But they also do like lives. I think there's one bar that does live shows every Thursday and then another
Mm.
every other weekend. But at first, it was difficult for me as well to find people. But I think after speaking with a few friends and people I know that have been there,
Mm.
I was like, oh, so there is something.
Yeah, I think it was just during COVID. Because I'm surprised they let me travel during that time. I was actually supposed to go to Greece, but they didn't let me go to Greece. They kicked me off the plane actually, and then they showed me a list of places I can travel. I was in London at this time. They told me a list of places I can travel from London,
Mm-hmm.
because I wasn't allowed to go back home right away. They told me I had to wait. What they said, I had to they said I had to stay in London for a month before I was to be able to travel back home.
Oh, and this was because
So
of the
when,
restrictions.
yeah, it was with the restrictions. So ultimately, I was supposed to do London, Greece, Germany,
Right.
but they didn't let me go to Greece.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up going to Dublin, and I didn't like Dublin, so I ended up leaving Dublin after like 4 days,
Oh,
and I went to Germany early. I went there like what, a week early. But I ended up getting stranded there for 2 weeks because of their restrictions. So
oh
it
my
was all fun though. It was
God.
everything about it was fun, but it was just like a stressful at the time because it's like, yo, I just want to go home. But I had fun wherever I was at. Every single country that I visited, every experience I had was complete fun. But it was just like, come on, son, like why y'all doing this for? Like, what's this all about?
That's
Um,
crazy. But then why wasn't it that you couldn't go to Greece?
at the time, I think they just left the EU or something like that.
Oh,
Um, I don't know what that's about, but they told me that because I don't have a citizenship that I can't travel there. Or what they said.
oh, citizenship?
I don't know if it was a citizenship or something like that, but they said I need some kind of card, some EU card.
Oh, like a bio. I don't know if it's a biometric card specifically,
I'm
or
I'm not 100% sure, but all I know is they pulled me off the plane, and because I didn't have this specific document, they wouldn't let me go. And to my knowledge, I didn't need anything. My American passport is good enough for it. Like
right.
so, um, yeah, I was a little confused about it, but I mean, I'm gonna try to go back, to Greece. Is that's so some that's still a location on my map. So um, we'll see if everything changed or if they was just bullshitting because of the COVID, or I don't know. But yeah, I think that's what it is. Because it was COVID and I wasn't a actual resident, they didn't want me to go to the country and you
Right.
know write anything.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes sense, but it was at the same time, it was like there was no other notification of it. They were just like, "Oh, you can't go because you don't have this." Like, but yeah. Moving on. I asked that because I noticed that. Well, first off, what's your purpose in Dublin? You mentioned music venues,
Mhm.
but I noticed from like Krakow and Rome you mostly went for like historical or religious beliefs. Like you kind of, or maybe not beliefs, but like just the education, like to share history and
Yeah.
whatnot. So yeah, what's your purpose with this one?
So my purpose with Dublin is specifically to relax. I think in most of my travels, I've actually rarely relaxed, as in just calmed fully down from the hype of London, from traveling to different places and seeing different people and things. And I feel like it's a good change for me because I know I'm going to be extremely busy. I mean, from Monday, I'll be extremely busy, but in the midst of the few days I'll be in Dublin for, it would be like the one period where I can actually just fully rest and relax, something that I have always wanted to just do and just be. And of course, many can argue it's not the best place to be in March
I
with
was
the
gonna
weather.
say that. I was gonna say that.
But I mainly look for music venues just as a place to rest and also have inspiration flow naturally. It's something that I really do love about music and just listening to other people perform, or even if it's jazz specifically, just playing in the background.
Mhm.
I feel like things flow in a more natural way for me musically. That's how I like to create art, through words, through sort of humming to find different chords and keys for
Mhm.
future songs. But yeah, the main motive is to rest. To rest musically, rest physically, emotionally, everything.
I'm with you on that. And I mean, aside from the weather, I think for that specific reason, it's not really the worst suggestion for a travel location because when I went there, I didn't know anything to do there. Before I found the little the city center,
Mm-hmm.
um, I stayed in my Airbnb for the first 2 days. Like I was really trying to figure out where to go. Um, and it was really quiet, very quiet in the neighborhood. I walked around. I found a local grocery store. I bought some stuff so I can go back home and cook breakfast. It was very peaceful. The people there are cool. I didn't have any issues as far as like racial or anything of the sort. Yeah, everyone was really, really cool. They show love. The Airbnb I was staying in was really nice. Like it was a big house,
Oh, that's
but
good.
yeah, and the room that I had was like almost like a living room sized apartment. Like it was kind of huge. So yeah, it was a great experience. I enjoyed it. I thought it was dope.
No, I'm glad you enjoyed your time
Yeah,
there.
so,
I mean, I have
yeah, I think you'll have a good time.
yeah, I have a few places in mind to visit, and
Mm,
I will be sort of journeying. I think on one of the days I'll take a train to Belfast. Simply,
mm,
it wasn't initially in the plan, but whilst I was in Newcastle up north, I actually bumped into this lovely lady and her dog. I mean, I accidentally recorded this
mm,
meeting. Like basically we had already finished talking. The dog approached me, all friendly and things. So I started playing ball with him. And so we kind of parted ways, but then the dog came back to me. I
mm,
wanted to play again. I mean, it's just something about how affectionate and just bubbly and friendly he was.
mm,
It was really nice. And then we kind of started speaking, the owner and I, and she was from Ireland, but from Belfast and things. And
mm,
she kind of convinced me, like, okay, Nicole, you can take maybe half a day out of the 4 days just to visit Belfast and see what's up. Kind of just I think overall on the trip, whilst I have things that I want to visit, I'm also just going with the flow as part of just resting and not having to follow this rigid set of
right,
itinerary
right.
or
Hmm.
times.
I agree with that. Why is Dublin projected as the best place to be in Ireland if a lot of people talk about Belfast more? And this is what I've learned, So I've been thinking ever since, like, damn, maybe I should have went to Belfast. Like, maybe I should have checked it out over there. But I mean, because it seems like that's a more talked about place. Like, it's more of like the capital rather than Dublin.
Mm, I mean, Belfast is so you have the island of Ireland, but it's broken into two countries.
And
The top,
what,
uh,
where else?
sorry,
Where else?
no, no. So Wales is still it's right next to England, as in you don't need to get a flight to go
Mm,
over. So, I mean, I'll give you a little history of the UK overall. So, basically, the UK consists of England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. So
right.
within the island next to England, Wales, and Scotland, you've got two islands. It's simply because of well, historically, I like to remember it as the top being, I can't even remember, but one of the states at a point of time in history were Catholic, and then the other state was Protestant.
Mm,
And over time, it's until now, it's still the case where they're two separate countries. So you've got Northern Ireland at the top, the capital city of
mm,
that is Belfast.
mm,
And then you've got the Republic of Ireland, which is the south, where the capital is Dublin. Um,
mm.
Northern
That makes sense.
Ireland is part of the UK. Republic of Ireland is not. It's actually part of the EU, I believe.
Mm,
So it's kind of different. The reason maybe why you hear about Belfast more is just because it's still within the UK.
right,
But
right.
yeah, for me, I kind of know about both just through my interest in history and kind of just learning about the two sides and
Mm,
things. But initially, I wanted to do Dublin first, and then in another trip go to Belfast. But then the person I was speaking with was just like, "Oh, it's just a train away. It's about 2 hours max." And I was like, "Well, I guess I'll do that." I mean, it's a small island, so I reckon it's
Do you
possible.
see yourself? Do you see yourself being like one of those travel vloggers that end up on, well, I don't know what type of channels you guys have overseas, but like let's just say YouTube for sake, because we got like TLC, we got National Geographic,
Oh,
we got all these channels where people are just backpacking it across like different areas.
I mean, when I was a kid and I was reading books and I was engaging with like the European side of history,
Mm-hmm.
I really liked it. And I used to watch these documentaries. I mean, I still do like historic documentaries
Hmm.
about like different periods. I mean, nowadays it's more Afrocentric than
Hmm.
anything,
Right,
but still, if it's
like it
if it's
should be.
anything, if it's anything that interests me, like I want to do some research, read books about it.
Mm.
I used to think of myself as being a future documentor, where I just like go around, kind of what I'm doing now, more or less, going around
Right.
observing different cultures, sharing a bit of history and things. But there's this
Mm.
particular person, Sir David Atta Atta something. He on this side is quite famous and well known
You
for
mean
his documentaries.
David Attenborough? Whatever.
Yes,
Ah, damn, I'm struggling to say it
yes,
myself. But I know you're talking about
yeah,
the guy, the dementia guy,
yeah. This guy,
David Attenborough.
like, I would watch quite a few of his
Mm.
led documentaries, and I was kind of like inspired. And it was more because of the actual things that he would say and share.
Mm. Nah, I agree. It's crazy. He always pops up on my Facebook. Like I always watch,
Really?
like, because I'm always watching like animal documentaries. Always, like, so. 9 times out of 10, when I click on one, he's the
Oh,
one that's doing the narration. So it's just always interesting.
no, he's really
Um,
famous for this, and I really enjoy it. I mean, I deepen my understanding of different species even because of just watching documentaries. And I also feel like I learn visually through like movies or in this case documentaries as well. So it's
right.
for me a great way to sort of inhale a lot of information, but also feeling entertained as well.
Nah, definitely. Um, so yeah, I got you here for a bit more. I know it's getting late on your side. I don't want to keep you. Let's talk a little bit more on mental health. Um, in one of our conversations, you mentioned that you were dealing with depression. Um, do you mind sharing where that comes from with you? Like, what does that look like for you?
So for me, what it looks like, oh, well, presently, I have good days, yes, but the bad days, sometimes I struggle to get out of bed for the first half of the day. I would say about 3 weeks ago, I had to call in sick from work because of literally just having that bad episode of not being able to get up out of bed.
Mm,
I do have periods where I kind of feel low still. I mean, they're not as low as they were, I'd like to say, a few years back,
mm.
but I just kind of think negatively about things around me, sometimes about myself. I struggle at times with interacting with people as well as eating right. When I'm in a bad cycle, I kind of either stop eating or I just purposefully eat really junky foods. Um,
Is there something that triggers this?
Honestly, not always. In the beginning, it used to just be self hatred
Mm,
before I really began to understand myself and love myself and who I am. Nowadays, though, it can be situational. So something small
mm,
but negative that could have happened, it may sort of stay with me for a period longer. Other times, it can be things as simple as an argument or just a bad day at work. And one thing I really don't like when it comes to mental health and work is when people sort of say they have depression or say they have anxiety, but it's just like a 1 day thing for them.
mm.
Like me as someone that, lives with it and I wouldn't say struggle, but I find challenges around it, is
Right.
that I can work through my depression. Like my therapist, he said once that I have this thing called high functioning depression, where it's like you can be at your lowest, but you can still work and work and work
Mm,
and work. And in my previous jobs, it's literally affected me so badly. One time I did have to go to the hospital because my body was just like not moving. It was almost completely paralyzed. And it was difficult for me to move around, which had quite a bad impact on my depression. It kind of just worsened it, especially when then going back into work. But I would say it's a journey. It's not something that can go away just like that with the click of a finger. Contrary to what some people may say, but
Mm.
I would say when it comes to sort of overcoming the triggers, what I definitely am learning to do now is to communicate and kind of get clarification from
Yeah.
people. Like, say if it's an argument, I may take it badly, but then I'm like, hold on, does this person even know that I'm taking it like this? It
Right.
could be like with a family member or my partner or a friend and things,
Mhm.
and just kind of creating an open space for myself as well as the other person to be able to understand, like, okay, they didn't mean it like that, but I took it like this. Why did I take it like that automatically?
Mhm. I think that's very important. Seeking clarity. A lot of people don't want to do that. They'll just take whatever reaction they get initially and just run with it. And that ultimately burns a whole lot of bridges. Um, I've had to learn getting older myself. I've always been very reasonable. I've always been a both sides of the table kind of person.
Mm.
But for the most part, um, I've had my moments where I just go straight off the reaction, where I'm just like, you know what? I don't even care about what you think or how you feel. I'm just gonna boom. So when I ultimately like started prioritizing clarity, like ultimately understanding people, like really digging deep into like finding solutions to our problems,
Yeah.
it became better. Like and I think people really need to just start seeking clarity. I mean, too many people just want to be right. Too many people need a reason to snap or crash out, as they say, but nobody wants to actually sit back and evaluate, like how we can come to a conclusion with whatever we're going through.
Yeah,
Um,
like it takes a lot for people to actually reach that point. And I'm not gonna say like, I'm definitely at that point because I'm not. I still have periods of time where it's like, I want to be right so badly, but then it's like on the reflection of, what's actually important. Maintaining your friendship or relationship or that need, that expressed need to be right all the time. Like I find that it's whilst that's necessary to sort of question yourself at times within reason, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't also validate your reaction or validate what has happened and how that's left you feeling or behaving in a way. I feel like at times whilst it's better to be the bigger man and just seek the clarity, you can seek the clarity without having to neglect how the situation is actually making you feel, which has helped me a lot in understanding myself. Like I can be wrong, but the way that that was making me feel at first, why was that? And sometimes people react based on what they know, which at times means they don't know a lot. But it's like you can validate it, but also seek the clarity. And then maybe be like, okay, I was like this in that moment, but this person has just told me that that was actually the intent. It wasn't to make me feel some kind of way. It was just pure love, honesty. They want to see me grow. So I need to find a way to take it in without taking offense, for example. Oh, I can't hear you. Hello?
yeah, sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, sorry about that. It's important to have friends and family hold you accountable as well too. Like ones that are not afraid to do so, because that's another thing that we deal with. We're too afraid to like offend people. We don't want to upset you.
yeah.
So a lot of times, again, going back to having those tough conversations. You know, we got to be able to say, you know what, bro, you was wrong. Or, you know what, mom, I didn't agree with whatever you said. Or, hey, friend, you know, we're going to be besties forever. But this right here, I draw the line. You know, it's hard to have those conversations with people because they don't want to be told that they're wrong. Like,
Yeah.
and it's tough.
I mean, it's tough, but it's necessary. Like,
Hmm.
not just for the relationship, but for ourselves. Like, it's the
Very.
people that don't say anything as you're doing A, B, C, D, Z mistakes, and you're not practicing self love. You're not doing things to a height that you know you can achieve. That are,
Mhm.
I would say, haters, even if they disguise themselves as friends. I'm sorry. I'd rather have three honest people in my life than 100 friends.
Thank you. 100% facts. I agree with that. Well, yeah. It's been amazing having you here on this platform. Thanks for stopping by with
Thank you for
us.
having
Uh,
me.
no doubt. Oh, sorry. I did have one more topic that I wanted to talk
Okay.
about. Damn, I had to slip my mind. Okay, so this is a doozy. This is a real deep one. So you're someone who advocates for Black culture, pro-Black rather. Um, you know, I see you post a lot about Congo. I see you even dipping in there for Palestine. You're more into politics and things of that nature. Um, and you date a partner who is of the opposite race of you.
Hmm.
Um, how does that work in this kind of world, you know, where politics run everything? Like, how does that relationship survive a world of politics?
Hmm. I like this question. It's a good question. I find it funny that you actually consider me pro-black. Like when I was in
Well, I mean,
school.
I'm just going over the things that I see. My bad,
No,
but
no. It's
yeah.
not a bad thing at all. But for me, it's like I come from a family that's proud of
Mm,
being black, of being African, of being Caribbean. Of
mhm,
course, my own sort of journey of life has been the opposite, but kind of now standing from that perspective, it allows for me to, not only befriend, but also be in a relationship with someone that is completely different
mhm,
to me. I feel being culturally, not culturally, politically aware of what's happening in the world, very important. Whether or not you have an opinion, like until today, no one has caught me, at least on social media, saying my actual opinion between things
mhm,
like what is happening in Palestine as well as Israel, or the situation in Ukraine with Russia.
mhm,
Because for me, yes, I have my own opinion, I have my own perspective. But when it comes to social media, I want to make sure that my friends and my followers are educated and educating
mhm,
themselves on what's happening. Like, I don't need to know which side you're on, but I need you to be aware. Don't just run emotions. Don't let emotions lead you into certain political beliefs and things like this. But being in a
mhm,
relationship with someone that is white and also Italian, I kind of look past the politics and think, why are we actually together? And we've had conversations around race, around different cultural values.
mhm,
Like, for example, I'm more family oriented than he is with
mhm,
his family. But I feel he is just so amazing and loving in understanding my different cultures.
mhm,
As someone that came to the UK by himself and is living by himself, like
mhm,
I cannot begin to imagine from his eyes that perspective of literally moving countries and kind of starting from scratch almost. Um,
right.
I feel that alone, it's not race driven, it's like love driven in a way. And I find that getting to know people and knowing whether or not someone is an ally, someone that is just here for the sake of it, or someone that is purely racist, I
Mm.
find him to be not only an ally, but also someone that, you know, listens. Like, obviously, as a black woman, as a black person, my experience is going to be different to his. And I feel in the beginning of
Mm.
our relationship, it wasn't something that he fully understood.
Right, understandably.
Yeah, but I feel like with time being together and sort of embracing each other's cultures, like he now can say a few words in Lingala, which shocks me.
Mm.
Lingala, it's
Mm.
a language spoken in the Congo in the DRC. So he knows things like bote, which means hello, nalingio, I love you, and things.
Mm.
He's more aware of like the cultural side of Jamaica. He likes jerk chicken now, so you know.
That's crazy. That doesn't count. That does not count.
But no.
Yo, we have to officially rule Jamaican culture outside of like Jamaican and American black. We have to rule. We have that has to be erased from qualifying as the black experience because like those are the most two common ways you can experience being black. Like I think you have to go to the actual motherland and
Mm.
do like do something crazy.
No,
Like I don't
absolutely.
know. It's
But
so
no,
funny, like, when I hear these people share their experiences on like how they know black people, and it always has to do with, American black culture or Jamaican black culture. It's like that,
yeah, it's
yeah, like
they're,
at this point, don't count no more.
they're,
Yeah,
they're
you got to
they're
do something
too
else now.
known. But also, because my upbringing is mostly via Congolese
Mhm.
household, like he took time to sort of learn, understand a bit more about the culture. Like every now and then, I'll send him like an article or a post that's sharing what's happening in Congo, but also the beautiful side. Like
Has he
there's
met your family?
mm,
Has he met your family?
he's met my mother and he's met some of my siblings.
How
Um,
did that go?
but yeah, the one that he where he met with my mother, it was just them two. So I wasn't there. So they were kind of just meeting each other.
Interesting. How
Yeah, I
did
mean
that work?
that we're still together, so I would say it's good. But no, I think them two meeting was sort of a big thing for me
Mm.
because if my mother came back to me and was like, "Oh, I don't think he's the one," judging by how he was speaking, da 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 da, like I feel that would influence whether or not I was to move forward with him because he's actually the first
Mhm.
person, the first partner in my life that has actually reached that stage in a way. So yeah,
Mm.
it was a pretty big deal. Um, Obviously, I'm not ashamed to be black. He's very aware of that, and
Mm.
that you know I I embody the essence of a queen. Like
Mhm.
I don't mean
Mm.
to say that lightly or randomly, but I feel
Right.
like as black people, we definitely need to carry ourselves like royalty because we do come from royalty. Like I'm finding out in
100%.
my own family tree that there was literally a king and queen in our village, and
Mm.
kind of delving deeper into that, it was something so unexpected, but also a really beautiful thing for me to know that, you know, before slavery, there was a past. Like there was a big past. And my line specifically carried royalty, which
Mm.
again is a beautiful thing to delve into once you know where you're from. And it's even better when you're in a relationship with someone, like whether they're black or not, that is fully supportive of that for you.
Mm. Interesting. And I love that you have this experience, that you have someone that's patient and willing to learn. Um,
I mean, in
and
a
that's
way,
just someone that, huh?
no, sorry.
Oh, well, someone that's willing to learn, and you're also patient enough to like teach. Um, you know, from my experience of, interracial dating, it didn't always work out because I felt like I like had to keep repeating that I'm black. Like, yeah, I had to let you know, like, yo, dude, like
Mm-hmm.
this is where I come from. Like, and it's like for them, it was always like a culture shock. And it's like, well, yeah, it's supposed to be, but not to the point where you're ignorant towards it, not where you don't care to learn, what's happening, on my side of town. Like, especially if we're coming together. You know what I'm saying? It's important for us to know, especially like if we're gonna be having kids. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like that's two different cultures merging. Like, why would you not want to know about the other side?
Yeah.
You know, so it was always, tough for me. And I just at this point I don't think I have any more space for it. I think I'm just gonna stay with my people as I intended to do from the beginning. I just got curious as I got older. That's what it was. I've had family members that have, transitioned to the other side happily. Um, so it just made me curious. I wanted to see what it was all about. I personally wasn't huge on the whole um, racism thing where it was like, oh, I can't date this because of history. But, you know, um, the experience alone showed me why that works. You know what I'm saying? Why that happens, because they're just so ignorant. A lot of times, they just don't care to know. So
Yeah.
I would say
And
if anyone, sorry.
no, I was just going to say that in the past, I did have like similar negative experiences where there'll be
Hmm.
culture shocks or sort of racist comments that would be
Hmm.
told to me by the person I was dating at the time. And then I was just like, no, no. But I think it goes more towards the purpose and intention of dating and kind of where you find each other. Like for example, with my partner and I, we met whilst working, and so things like race at the time at that point was not a big issue until getting to know him on a deeper level and things. Because for me, like I said, family is important to me, but he doesn't really speak much with his family, and there's like things that I as a black person need to be aware of, like how's his family going to react when he brings me along, or his friends, or how are they like culturally aware, are they culturally open.
I realize we're more welcoming,
Oh yeah.
and not for nothing, I feel like we do have to like change that because it ends up stabbing us in the back all the time. Like just look at today's
Mm,
society. Like they're so comfortable embracing in our culture, but let us take a look over in their yard and it's an issue.
mm.
Like so it's like maybe we shouldn't be so welcoming. Like maybe they should have to work for their place the same way that they expect us to do.
No, I feel you on that, and I definitely agree with that to a point. Like people are so quick to sort of jump on our culture. People love to tell me about different black celebrities, mostly American, I'm sorry. But then it's like,
Right.
if I start saying something about their culture, something that I know, then it's like, oh, I didn't expect someone like you to know about that. And I was like, someone like me? What's that supposed to mean?
Yeah,
So,
what does that mean?
so the same way about Black American celebrities, and I'm not even American, but you're confidently
Mm,
saying all of this to me like I'm supposed to just be like, oh yeah, I know 1,000% about them. But for me
mm.
to say one thing, it's like a problem. It's something I don't understand. And I do feel sometimes that us being too welcoming kind of opens the door to have bad treatment or things like appropriation more than appreciation, which then is like everyone else benefits, but the very people that live on like the culture or different values that associate us as one.
Nah, for real, definitely. Well, yeah, thank you for coming through, man. I really truly appreciated this conversation. Definitely thought provoking. Uh, this will be uploaded to YouTube, so it's going to be posted to the page in a few seconds, but I'm going to take it down and upload the full thing to YouTube. So hopefully everyone, follows through on YouTube. So is there anything that you wanted to leave, like any gems, any knowledge, any upcoming announcements, anything you want to leave with the people?
Well, next week I'll be doing an open mic in the Box Park Shoreditch, and then that'll be next Wednesday. The next week, Thursday, I'll be in the RSVP location in London from about 7 o'clock on that Thursday. More details you can find on my Instagram page. My username is nicole.ache underscore. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel as well under the same name. And whatever you do, don't change, don't stop whatever is burning within you to do or to keep doing. Like, stay consistent, stay the course. You may not see any results today or tomorrow or the day after, but good things always come to those who wait, and better things come to those who work in the midst of that waiting.
So I appreciate that 100%. Thank you again for stopping
Thank you
by.
for having me, MC. Have a great afternoon.
You as well. Have a good evening.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you. Bye.
Later. All right, guys. That was today's episode. Thank you all for staying tuned in. Next week we got some more guests, which I will be announcing tomorrow. So make sure you follow the YouTube and subscribe. Going live with the MC. You get to see today's episode as well as all the previous ones. And tune in every Wednesday at 7 p.m. and every Saturday. The times will be announced on Saturday. Check out the guests. We always have somebody dope. There's always some gems being dropped. There's always some knowledge being shared. And thank you as well for following and staying engaged with the conversation. I appreciate you. Have a good day, everybody.